First of all, I want to say that the governor had really wanted to be here, but he has a family get-together, and if you know how large his family is, all of his kids and grandchildren, it's probably about the same size group as we got here. But I wanted to just take a few minutes, not speaking on behalf of the governor, but just to give you some observations about what I heard today from a communications perspective. But before I do that, I want to reflect back to the last State Central Committee meeting of the Rhode Island GOP. And shortly after Rob Manning was announced that he was going to head up the platform committee, one of the delegates stood up and asked Rob, why was he qualified? What was his personal ideology that would enable him to be a good chair for the platform committee? And Rob's answer, I thought, was more profound than he might have realized. What Rob said was, my personal ideology has nothing to do with it. And no deference to Terry, this is not a church revival. This is about winning elections. Because I got to tell you, unless we win more seats locally, at the General Assembly, in Congress, nothing is going to change. I work with the governor every single day and see how hard he fights to keep taxes low. This year he tried to reduce taxes, and you know how far that went. It's the General Assembly in the state of Rhode Island that needs to change. Now let me further on this theme of communication. What Rob said about ideology is not going to win elections holds a lot of merit. We have a branding problem in the Republican Party. We have had a branding problem for probably the last 2 election cycles. And the problem is we have failed to brand ourselves. And if you're a candidate or a party, if you don't clearly brand yourself, your opponent and the liberal media is going to brand you. And that's what's happened. So I would encourage all of the candidates here to quickly identify what they stand for and answer the questions to the voters. What does it mean to me if I vote for you? What are you going to do for me? And how are you going to affect my life? Standing up and preaching ideology is going to get you nowhere. Let me tell you, the Democrats are better at it. They pick poster childs. They live and dream and work on campaigns, on sympathy, on emotions. And for the most part, conservatives tend to use data, analysis, theory, logic. You ought to understand because we're right. Well, being right doesn't win you elections any more than your ideology does. You need to learn how to effectively communicate to the people who are going to put your butts in office. And let me tell you, there are 3 or 4 things you need to remember. And I don't mean to be preaching, but I'm so fired up about this. And I heard some great comments from John, from Eric, from Mark. I got to tell you that these folks are learning how to translate their ideology into what it means to the average voter. And I think there is a huge opportunity right now, better opportunity than the conservative movement has ever had, to redefine what we are all about. And what we are all about is, we don't want government intruding in our lives, and stay the hell away from our health care. Amen. We want our taxes to be lower. And we don't want government to expand, we want it to contract. If we can stay focused on those themes and constantly tell people what it means to them in their lives, like the health care issue. You notice what's happening? Polls are swinging. The White House they're beside themselves. They don't know how to act. The conservative side of our society is now getting some traction because people are fed up and they understand that if the federal government takes over our health care, it's going to be another DMV situation. We can't have it. So I got to tell you, communicate, communicate, communicate. Get some simple themes and stick with them. Identify yourself, brand yourself. And remember one thing. I've learned in the last 18 months that mainstream media is not your friend. I don't care what they tell you. I don't care what relationships they try to build with you. They are liberal, and most of them are guilty of journalistic fraud.
Yes. Yes.
And you cannot allow them to get away with it. What you have to do as a candidate, whenever an article is written that is not factual, that is slanted and biased, you've got to pick up that phone, go nose to nose with that reporter, go over that reporter's head, talk to the editor, talk to the station general manager, and demand fairness. Because you know what that does? That puts them on notice that you're not going to be a pushover. And you're going to be watching, you're going to be reading, you're going to make sure the record is set straight. I encourage everybody who's running and everybody who is promoting a cause that you do not let the media push you around, that you go nose to nose with them. I've done it on 2 occasions in the last 18 months, and I won both times in behalf of the governor. And we took on Channel 10 and we took on the Projo. And I tell you, if you have your stuff together, you have your facts together, and you don't back down, eventually, at a minimum, even if you don't win, they'll turn down the rhetoric a little bit and give you a little fairer shake. So I just want to close by saying I'm around, although I've got a 24/7 job, but I'm willing to help any candidate, any cause, to help get this country back in the right direction. And no, I'm not running for anything, but I sure as hell like to run with the people who are running. Thanks.